Hi guys, okay, we're back again, and because of viewer demand, I've brought my son again. He was a bit of a hit after Spider-Man Homecoming. Today we're going to talk about Baby Driver, the new film by Edgar Wright. And if you know anything about Edgar Wright, he's just this alchemist who is able to blend different genres and come up with something new. And Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, the Cornetto trilogy, and my favorite film,
Scott Pilgrim.
Yes, one of my favorite films of all time, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So I love Edgar Wright, and so I've gone in with high expectations, and I've taken my 11-year-old son to a film supposedly restricted to 15 years and plus. On that point, I actually didn't think it was that bad. Bit of over-the-top violence and some bad language, but I see much worse. So this is just the quick hit. This is just to say whether you should see it or not, and then I'll go into the other sections of the review where I talk about the film and then spoilers. So quick hit, what did you think?
I thought so far it was the best we've ever seen in my life. It was really good.
Okay, well that's high praise. I think this is because this is the first real film my son has seen, which isn't a superhero or magical or kids film. This was the first time where it was amazing kind of stuff, but it was all real. Now, in my view, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Probably, arguably, definitely the most fun film I've seen this year. Get Out is still probably the best film I've seen in 2017, but this is by far the most fun. Everyone, turn off this review, go see the film, and then come back. It is that good. Okay, now for the rest. Okay, so my son has left me now. He'll rejoin for spoilers. So let's now start to talk about this film. So what Edgar Wright has done always, makes these cinematic confections, which he takes a genre, Shaun of the Dead, takes a zombie film, and then adds it to almost a working class comedy. And it becomes about class just as much as it does about the horror of zombies. And he's done that with every film he's done. And if I started unpacking all those, that would be all my time. So with Baby Driver, he's come up with this great idea, which is taking the getaway driver, which we've seen back to Ryan O'Neal in The Driver, Ryan Gosling in Drive, and then he's now up that, but still put it into a heist film. And if you know anything about Edgar Wright, he loves films. He's always putting on film festivals where he puts his best 10 car films, his best 10 heist films, and he's borrowed all those elements and put it together. And the way that he's done it in this particular case, which is absolutely brilliant, because if you think about it, I don't really see many musicals, not in the last couple of years. La La Land stole my heart last year, and this is actually more a musical than a crime film. But Edgar Wright, being a genius, has brought them together. And in fact, at the beginning of the film, you're a little bit shocked because he really is using all the tropes of a musical rather than an action thriller or anything like that. So Edgar Wright, just genius. We'll talk about him in a second. The way this film works, though, is you can have great writing, you can have great music, but you really need a great ensemble to be able to do the very demanding things Wright wants. And that's because the guys are they've got to look like criminals, and yet there's plenty of jokes. The lead, Ansel Elgort, has to almost be like a dancer. In the first two scenes, it is really more typical. It's like, Dancing in the Rain, and he's really doing a bit from a musical, and he's able to pull that off. He's really an elegant mover, and then that transcends into when you see him driving. He's smooth at everything he does. So it's really good. The cast, John Hamm is kind of really steals all his scenes. It's probably his best film role. I mean, He's great in Mad Men, but this is the first time you really saw him showing a few different techniques. Kevin Spacey's just great as usual. He plays Doc, the kind of leader of the whole heist kind of clan. And then you have Jamie Foxx as Bats, and he's kind of the element of chaos which gets brought in, starts mixing around. Now everyone is just great because, as we all know, Jamie Foxx is able to do comedy. He's able to do that physical kind of acting. Then you have the two main female leads. Now I'll just check. Eiza Gonzalez. Now she plays Darling, who is to John Hamm's buddy. They're married. They're like Bonnie and Clyde. She is fantastic because she just carries this note of confidence, and you wouldn't want to cross her, but she's gorgeous, and they really have a great chemistry together. And then finally you have Lily James, who's Deborah. She's the waitress that Baby ends up with, who's his love element, and she is really, really good. She's very charming. She does some singing. They really look like two young people falling in love. They really sell it. The thing I like about it is, if you've seen Lily James before, I never watched Downton Abbey, but I did watch the War and Peace BBC miniseries, which I thought was outstanding. And I didn't think she was that great in it. And she's much better in this. She really shows her charisma. So you've got this great cast. Then Edgar Wright, just like a master chef, takes all those ingredients and mixes them in. And what he does so well is the music is driving what you're seeing on the screen. And you really need someone who knows exactly what they want to capture on the camera, because you can see that he has timed some of the elements to the soundtrack, and yet it still looks like a realistic crime thriller. And that's really difficult to do. The editing is just ridiculously good. I mean, it's magnificent. I haven't seen such good driving for a while now, and I love driving scenes. And probably the best driving I've seen in the last 10 years was of this type was in the Bourne trilogy. And these guys really match some elements of that. Overall, Edgar Wright has just been able to amalgamate all these elements, bring them together, and make a really fun film. Now, it has got some issues, I think, and the issues for me are, if you're compared it to Scott Pilgrim, the blend is much more organic. Here, it took me a little while to get into his universe. It's a little bit forced. There is some posturing, I felt, from Edgar Wright in the way he shoots, especially the first maybe 20 minutes. Then it settles down, and then you just get on board for the ride. But it's a magnificent film. I really enjoyed it. And that's about all I want to say, because I do want to talk a little bit in spoilers. Okay, we're back now for spoilers. And this film does have, not so much that you could spoil the film, but the ending is definitely open to interpretation. So the ending of the film, and please, I'm just assuming you've seen it, you're not watching this if you haven't, but the ending of the film is, of course, Baby gives himself up so that nothing happens to Deborah, and she can kind of move on with her life. And despite everyone saying he's a pretty good guy, he gets sentenced to 25 years in jail with parole eligible in 5 years, which not that big amount of time for a young man, because he's about 21 in the film, I would guess. So there's been this theme through it where they sometimes fantasize about maybe what the future will be. And Deborah sends him all these postcards, and he's looking at them, and he's in prison. And then the film goes to black and white, and it's exactly all the things they've talked about, which is to get a good car and to move on. And they're dressed kind of modern, like as if he got out in a year or 5 years. And then it goes to color, and they leave, and that's kind of the end of the film. So you're not quite sure. So what did you think?
I thought he got out. So what happened was, so he looks at the postcard and then it goes black and white. And then it changes and he's going out of the jail door, meaning that he's free. And then he gets in the car and they drive. So that is what I find is the ending or a new start.
Okay. And funnily enough, Lily James, I just checked, thinks Alex is right. She thinks they just leave. I think the Edgar Wright is a little bit too clever with that kind of thing. And because it's black and white, I think it's clearly a dream / a fantasy. He's in jail, he's looking at this postcard, and he's thinking, what can it be? And that's what, when they interviewed Ansel Elgort, he said that's what he thinks the ending is. So, of course, I checked, and there is some stuff on the internet where Edgar Wright says that he's not going to say what the ending is. He thinks it's open to interpretation. And the one clue he said is, if you look right in the corner, you'll see a rainbow. And that indicates that the reference to Dolly Parton's song in one of the bank heists. And it means you've got to go through the rain to get through the rainbow. And so, yeah, not sure. I think it indicates that this might be a long time from now.
It could be a fake reference.
Look, it could be in 5 years, and they could all still be young. That works.
No, it could be a fake reference.
It could be. Now, Baby Driver's made a bit of money, and it's definitely the biggest film for Edgar Wright. And because it's not what everyone else is bored with, a comic book film, people are saying that he might make a sequel. And that would mean that the kid's probably right. Okay, that's it for today. Please subscribe to the channel. If you want to put comments, I'll answer all the comments. I love a good debate, especially about the ending. And I'm on Twitter @Guru Eden. And I'll see you next time. Bye.